Hi, hello. Uh, Factoring trinomials or factoring to me is kind of the same deal of learning how to follow a system. Why learning to follow a system? Because it's just to see some steps and use these steps, follow the steps, and if you follow the steps, you will always have success. So there's a quote that says that successful people build systems, okay, and they are rich or they got success because they build systems. So for me, factoring trinomials is some way to understand that following a system give us success. Okay, let's start factoring trinomials. First, let me show you the how to. There are 3 steps to factor trinomials that you just have to follow it. Follow it. If you follow these steps, you will have success to factoring any trinomial. Let me show you the first step. It says check if it is a perfect square trinomial. PST is some way that I use to name perfect square trinomial, and this is the equation that explains the perfect square trinomial. If not, so if you notice that it's not a perfect square trinomial, check if it is of the form x squared plus bx plus c. So you have here how to find it. Find 2 terms whose product is c and whose sum is b. I'm going to tell you that these terms are alpha and beta, and then the factoring is x plus alpha, x plus beta. But if not, check if it is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. How? Multiply a times c, find 2 terms whose product is a times c and whose sum is b, rewrite bx as the sum of the terms found in step b, and factor by grouping. And there's a final answer. If not, you just have to say that the polynomial is prime, or the trinomial is prime. Okay, so we're going to see it with an example. I'm going to use this example. So what is the first step? The first step is check if it is a perfect square trinomial. If you watch the equation of the perfect square trinomial, you need 2 perfect squares. There are a and b. So you need to find here if you have 2 perfect squares. 3x squared, so we have a square here, but 3 is not a perfect square. 8x, not a perfect square, and 5 is not a perfect square. So if you can see here, there are no perfect squares in the trinomial, therefore it's not a perfect square trinomial. It is not a perfect square trinomial. No perfect squares. Now we're going to see the second option, that is check if it is of the form x squared plus bx plus c. So to check if it is of this form, you need at least 1 perfect square. 3x squared is not a perfect square, negative 8x is not a perfect square, and plus 5 is not a perfect square. So it is not of the form x squared plus bx plus c. Finally, we're going to check, it's not check if it is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So to have this, you need 1 term that has 1 perfect square. Okay, 1 term that has 1 perfect square. And this perfect square should be multiplying another term. Okay? Here, 3x squared, x squared obviously is a perfect square, and this square is here, x. So we have that it is of the form ax plus bx plus c. And to be sure, that we understand. So we're going to tell which are A, B, and C. A, 3. B, -8. Z, +5. Okay? A is the term that multiplies the perfect square. B is the term that multiplies the root of this perfect square. And C is the other term, the independent. So we're going to follow the steps. Multiply A times C. So multiply A times C. A times C is 3 times 5, 15. Now find two terms whose product is A times C and whose sum is B. So the terms whose product is 15 and whose sum is -8 are, which are the numbers? You can use prime factorization to check which are the numbers. Prime factorization on 15. In this exercise, it's easy to know that the numbers are -5 and -3. Okay? -5 and -3. So I'm going to pass to step number Z. Rewrite Bx as the sum of the terms found in step 3. So Bx is -8x. So I'm going to write it as -3x minus 5x. And finally, factor by grouping. There are many methods to determine the factoring of this type of trinomials. I choose one that I think that is the best way and the easiest way to do it. But maybe if you check other books, you will notice another options and another ways. But remember, if you have another algorithm to simplify trinomials, just follow it step by step. Okay? The key to be successful in factoring is to follow the system appropriately. Go into the system, stick into the system and follow it. So I'm going to factor by grouping. To factor by grouping, I need to determine two groups or three groups and factor the GCF. So the GCF of this first group is 3x. So 3x, oh, sorry, 3x factor of x minus 1. Okay, 3x times x, 3x squared, 3x minus 1, -3x. And here, to do the factoring, I'm going to factor -5. So we'll have x minus 1. Okay, this is the factoring by grouping. And now I'm going to factor the binomial x minus 1. Okay, I skip the first step of any factoring, that is, check if there is a GCF. Okay, but I have noticed here that there's no GCF. I skipped this step. Now I'm going to factor the binomial, that is x minus 1. And I have x minus 1 times 3x minus 5. This is how you factor a trinomial, and this is how you have the process and the step-by-step process. Okay? If you want, or if you're not sure that your factoring is appropriately or you're learning, I prefer that you check the answer. So check the answer. How you check the answer? Multiply out. Multiply out. People that sticks to a system and are learning a system, they usually track what they're doing and if they are doing according to the system to check that it's okay. In some ways, this could be very difficult. For example, when people program stuff, sometimes get very difficult to follow how they program. But here it's easy because you just have to multiply out. So look at x times 3x. X times 3x. 3x to the second power. X times negative 5. Negative 5x. Negative 1 times 3x. Negative 3x. Negative 1 times negative 5, positive 5. And negative 5x minus 3x, negative 8x. So we have the answer. And this is how you factor trinomials. Remember to stick into the system. Remember to check the system. If you have any question about how to apply perfect square trinomial or how to get the other form, x squared plus bx plus c, please let me know. But I think that the best way that you can track it is doing exercises following the system. Follow a system and you will have success in factoring. Goodbye.